everyone, and welcome to the Thru Recovery Life podcast. Today we have Miss Michelle L. Michelle L. in Ohio. She is here to share her experience, strength, and hope with us and tell us what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So without any further ado, I give you Michelle from Ohio. Go ahead, Michelle.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I am an alcoholic. And my sobriety date is February 14th, Valentine's Day, 1995. And I started using basically because I couldn't handle life. I was babysitting my cousin who was 6 months old, and I was 11 or 12, and I couldn't handle the baby crying. So I went ahead and took some drugs out of my aunt's cabinet and immediately went into a blackout and never watched that kid again. Um, that's just how my drinking was. I drank to escape, 100%. I drank to black out. I drank to escape life, situations, thoughts, feelings, whatever it was. By the time I was 16 years old, I was ending up in psych hospitals, and I did spend my entire 16th birthday in 4-point restraints because I was completely out of control by then. When I turned 18, my parents couldn't stop me from getting a car anymore. So I got a car, and 5 days after I got my first car, I was in a car wreck. Totaled my car. I wasn't drinking at the time. But I certainly had been under the influence when I was learning how to drive and all that kind of good stuff. So, even though I hadn't been drinking at the time, my driving was still impaired because I didn't really learn how to be a good driver because I was using when I was learning how to drive. So after I turned 18, I moved to Cleveland with this guy that I had met when I was 16. And I basically moved in with him because he could get me the alcohol and the drugs that I wanted. And, that was a bad situation from the get-go. I mean, there were young kids living in the household. There were plenty of people. It was like a drop box, just where people would come in and drink and drug and do whatever they felt like doing and then leave, or stay however long they wanted, just sleep on the couch or on the floor. I was sleeping in the living room, with this guy, and it just was a bad situation. We never had clean clothes, we never had clean dishes, we didn't have food. Roaches, I mean, just a really bad situation. And so I finally got to the point where I realized that that was not healthy, and moved back in with my parents. They allowed me to do that. And I don't remember if I got sober at that time. I don't think I did. I ended up getting a DUI. And when I got the DUI, I went to Project Detour, the hotel for the weekend for my jail time. So I didn't spend any time in jail at that time. I did get 30 days house arrest, and I went to the hotel for 3 days. And that was just a cakewalk. It was a slap on the wrist to me. And didn't bother me to be at home for 30 days because I was at home most of the time anyway. So I got sober because I went to that. I had an assessment, decided that I might be an alcoholic. And I stayed sober for about a year and a half, but I never truly believed that I was an alcoholic. I never worked any steps, never did anything like that. I was basically in the program because you people were nice to me, and I felt like I had finally had friends. I always felt like I was apart, set aside, didn't have friends, that kind of thing. Even though I really did, I didn't see it. And looking back, so I did drink again. I started going to the bar because I started getting lonely. and I was going to meetings and stuff and working and all that kind of stuff. But I got lonely, and I decided that the bar was a good place to meet people, and that's what I did. And of course, going to a bar, sooner or later you're going to have a drink, and I did. Um, and I continued to drink for a while. I don't know how long it was, maybe 6 months, 8 months, something like that. And I got to the point where the alcohol wasn't doing it for me anymore. I couldn't escape anymore. I couldn't get into a blackout fast enough. So I started huffing gas. And when I did that, I would black out, almost immediately, within seconds. And that was exactly what I wanted. Um, Drinking to me was just perfect. Using to me was just perfect. I didn't, I never used socially. I never used as a social lubricant in any way whatsoever. I did not like the taste of alcohol at all. Um, Only for effect. Um, Only to escape. And so I did that for a while, and I was still drinking too. And drinking was always my drug of choice. I don't know why, but it was. And I got another DUI. And this time, I guess I was nice to the cop, and he let me pull my car off the side of the road, or he pulled it off the side of the road actually. And he didn't tow it. Took me to the police station and had me call my boyfriend, and he actually literally ran with his two legs up to the police station to pick me up. And the cop said, "Well, I can't let you walk home." So he was nice enough to drive us back to my boyfriend's place, because I didn't have a place. It was, basically living couch to couch. And sooner or later that guy got sick of me. I was still using, I was still drinking. Even though I had just gotten the DUI, but didn't have driving privileges, didn't have a car. I was using his car when I got the DUI. Um, and that relationship fell apart. And I ended up going to like this psych hospital, like a treatment facility kind of thing, but it wasn't for alcohol and drugs. And they got me an apartment. But before I went to the apartment, I ended up in jail for my DUI. And I spent 3 days in jail. And even though it was only 3 days in jail, it put me in fear of my life. Um, and even though I wanted to escape life and everything, I guess I really didn't want to end my life. And when I was in jail, there was a situation that occurred that somebody told me that there was this other girl who was going to beat me up because I was laying in her bunk, or the one that she wanted. And my only thoughts of jail were, the Shawshank Redemption, and all these terrible things that you had seen on TV about jail. And I just figured that this lady had a gun or a knife or something and was gonna literally hurt me, maim me, kill me, whatever. And that was enough for me. Um, I still drank and used after that, but I did go to AA, and I started, really trying to figure out what this was all about. And I knew for sure that I was an alcoholic, and there was no way that I was going to let my life be like that. Um, I knew that if I kept going the way I was going, I was going to lose my life. I was going to be maimed or hurt so terribly that I would be um, completely unapproachable. Um, whether it be mentally or physically maimed. Um, and that, fear sobered me for quite a bit. And I did start working some steps. I worked the first 3 steps, and I spent a lot of years working step 4. Just I would write for a while, and I would stop for a while, and I would write for a while, and I would stop for a while. But I never did a 5th step. I did the wall steps. I picked and chose what steps I wanted to do. I made amends. I did step 6 and 7. Um, I even like carried the message without being a sponsor, just talking to people on the side, after meetings and stuff. Meetings were the bright spot of my life, but I was very depressed. So go through many, many years and myself in a nursing home and unable to live in society. And coronavirus happened, and I went into a coma with coronavirus, and they changed the medicine that I was on for some psych illnesses. And I woke up and, they knew that something was different. And I don't know what that was for sure. I don't know that it was medicine or anything like that. My mom had since passed away. They thought maybe my mom came to me when I was in a coma. And maybe God came to me when I was in a coma. And, I just knew when I woke up that I wasn't depressed anymore and that everything was going to be okay. Somehow it was just going to be okay. And I lost my memory. I lost the memory of a lot of years. I don't know, 25, 30 years, something like that. And it's come back a little bit slowly, just a little. I started working steps. I got a hold of my sponsor once I found out who it was. And the first thing I did was tell her that I need to work steps. I need to get this done. And I went through the first 3 steps with her. She had this program that she was doing with inventories for all the steps. And I did an inventory on step 1. I did an inventory on step 2. I did an inventory on step 3. And found out that not only was I an alcoholic, but the only way that I could ever stop drinking for the rest of my life was if I had a higher power to take that away. And that's something that I came to be very close to. My higher power is amazing and gets me through every situation in my life, not just drinking, but everything. I did step 4. I wrote for 2 weeks, about 5 or 6 hours a day for 2 weeks, and got everything I could possibly think of off my chest. And because I was in a nursing home during COVID, we had visits, but they were outside with other people around. So I did my 5th step with my sponsor outside with other people around by writing on notebook paper and passing them back and forth because we had to sit 6 feet apart. And we got it done. We were only allowed to see each other for 50 minutes at a time. We did it in 2 sessions and we got it done. And I got a lot of stuff out and I felt a lot better. And then we had to go on to, step 6, character defects. And I asked my sponsor, I said, well, what the heck are character defects? How do I find those? Because it said you're supposed to list them. I'm like, how do I list my character defects if I don't even know what they mean? And she said, you had them in your 4th step. Just look at your 4th step and come up with them. And I didn't really understand. And then I read Drop the Rock and Drop the Rock, the ripple effect of 6 and 7 and the ripple effect of step 10. And I understood more about character defects and how they apply to my life and how to get rid of them, how to work on them. They told me all those years in AA that when you want potatoes, you have to pick up a hoe. And I really didn't understand that until I started working step 6 and 7. And I really love working 6 and 7 now. I love being honest, like I learned to do in my 4th and 5th step. I found that honesty is very freeing, and I never have to keep my life and my thoughts a secret from those people who care about me, because they're not going to do things that are going to hurt me. Trust was a big issue for me. And then, steps 8 and 9, I had done, like I said, a lot of that when I was sober the first time, but there again, I just pick and chose what steps I did. So they weren't real 8th and 9th steps. When I did them this time, I made a list of the people that I had harmed, and I there was one person on my list that I really hadn't made amends to, and that was my sister. And my sister and I had been estranged for about 20 years. And I called her on the phone, and we were talking quite a bit at that time. And I told her, I says, I don't know how to make amends to you for, all the things that happened over those years, whatever that was. And she said, just you talking to me on the phone is enough of an amend, because all those years, all I ever did was get on the phone with her, say, hi, how are you? She would tell me, I would say, that's nice. I'll talk to you later. Our phone conversations were like 5 minutes. We were not really sisters. We didn't have a relationship of any kind. And now we talk on the phone for hours. And she said, that's enough of an amend for me, is just to have my sister back after all those years of absence. And then working steps 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis. 10, I believe that 10 and 11 kind of combine the rest of the steps. I personally have to do the rest of the steps to really understand what I'm doing in steps 10, 11, and 12. Because if I don't have a good knowledge of those steps, I can't practice doing an inventory on a spot checks basis, because I haven't done an inventory. I haven't made amends. I don't know how to react to people. I don't know how to treat people. And then doing step 11, having that conscious contact with my higher power. I didn't know what that was, because I didn't really have a relationship with my higher power. I let my higher power keep me sober all those years, but I didn't let him work in any other area of my life. And now he works in all areas of my life. And I sponsor girls now. I have a sponsor. I've had a sponsor all these years, just didn't use her very much. And I do sponsor girls, and that's been very rewarding. I love the girls I sponsor. I love everyone that I meet, basically. I've learned love and tolerance. I've learned forgiveness. I've learned forgiveness not only for other people, because I had to learn that in my 8th and 9th steps. I had to learn forgiveness for myself in 4 and 5. When I'm looking at my behavior and all those things that I did, it was pretty hard to look at. And I had to come up with forgiveness for myself for that. And I had to come up with forgiveness for other people, because a true amend can't be given unless I have forgiveness for those people. I can't be truly sorry for what I did. And it's really not about being sorry. It's about, what did I do? How did I really harm you? And what can I do, not to really make up for it, but to make things better now? I love carrying the message. I love helping the fellow alcoholic. Anybody that I can help them save their own lives is truly a blessing. And I guess that's all I have to say. Thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you very much, Miss Michelle. Hey, Michelle, how long have we known each other now? And we met on Zoom because of the pandemic.
I think 2 years now, maybe longer.
Yeah. I mean, and in my contacts, I have you as Michelle Movie Night. We met on because I used to do movie nights on Saturday evenings.
Mm-hmm.
The pandemic has done some really good things, helping people get together. And I really appreciate you, Michelle. And all right, thank you very much for taking the time to do this. You have a great rest of the week.
You too.